So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me, GSLD. I've been watching anxiously, not anxiously, I wasn't really nervous, but I've been anxiously awaiting my turn. It's been the second day here, and for the first 2 days, all my speaker friends have really hit it out of the park, and I'm really grateful to be part of this impressive lineup who are all here for you. So I'm gonna get into it. About 6 years ago, I realized I needed to make a change in my life. As Stu mentioned, I traveled across the country on my bike to raise awareness about the importance of inclusion and acceptance of all people without bias, and to start my nonprofit Move for Inclusion. And by all accounts, that event was successful. We raised tens of thousands of dollars, just actually close to $100,000. We were able to raise awareness. We were able to start the nonprofit. But when I came back, I was a mess. I was broke. I didn't have any job prospects. I was on the verge of losing my family. I was having a mental and physical breakdown. And one day it came to me that I had to make a change in my life. I had to do something. So I was scrolling on the internet late at night, and I came across an article about this gentleman who talked about getting up in the morning and being intentional with their life. 20 minutes, run for 20 minutes, journal for 20 minutes, read for 20 minutes. I thought, I can do that. So I went downstairs and I got a book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I put my shoes out and I got up and I ran down the end of the street and back. And then I read for 20 minutes and then I journaled. And it dawned on me that I felt pretty good about it. I know lots of speakers during this time talked about their morning routine. I heard a little bit of Ian's talking about his. Felt like I accomplished something. And so I started to do it. 5 years later, I've come up with this program called Life of Cadence, and everything that I do is intentional. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you a couple stories as how I got to the position that I'm in right now as far as being able to articulate these kinds of mindsets and ideologies and protocols, while hopefully interweaving some stories as to why I got to them. Here's another one of my whys. It was my daughter, Bryn. So Bryn is 8 years old now. When this picture was taken, she was 6 years old, and she's one of the reasons why I align my aspirations with my application. Let me dial it back a little bit. So when I come home from work, I bring the energy. I come home and I open the door, and I'm still relevant with my kids. And so I open the door and I yell out, "Daddy's home!" And I yell it as loud as I can. And I don't miss a day when I do it. And now with COVID, I'm always home. Always home. I'm not traveling quite as much, or at all. And so this particular day, I walked into my house and I opened the door and I said, "Daddy's home." It was absolute crickets. So I remove my boots and I walk into the living room and I see my daughter sitting on the couch with my wife. I looked up and I said, "Hi." Bryn looks up at me and goes, "Hi, Dad." Puts her head immediately down. I look at my wife, Brooke, and I said, "What's the problem?" She goes, "Check the communication log." So I did. I went in the communication log and this is what it read. Bryn was having a good day at school until lunchtime. At lunchtime, the lunchroom teacher overheard her using the F word, the mother of all swear words. They didn't say that, I just added that part, but you get the picture. So, I mean, 6-year-old kid using the mother of all swear words, you got to hold her accountable in some capacity. So what did I do? I walked into the living room, I said, "Okay, let's go upstairs, we're getting ready for bed." So I'm getting Bryn ready for bed and I'm looking at her and she's upset. I said, "Bryn, why'd you swear?" She's like, "I don't know, Daddy." I said, "Do you ever hear your dad swear?" She's like, "No." I'm like, I don't have to check her hearing. "Do you ever hear your mom swear?" She's like, "No, Daddy." And I'm like, okay, now she's lying, but I'm not going to call her on that. I said, "Then why'd you do it?" She's like, "I don't know." I said, "Okay, let's call your teacher." And immediately she starts to get kind of wide-eyed. My wife looks at me, she goes, "Are you sure this is like dinner time?" and I said, "Let's call the teacher." So she gets the teacher on the phone. Her teacher's a kindergarten teacher, and she's made of everything that's good in the world. Rainbows, butterflies, sugar, you name it. She's a kindergarten teacher. All you teachers out there, you get the picture, your name to the same. So I phone the teacher, she answers the phone, and I said, "Christine, I apologize. It's Nick Foley, Bryn Foley's dad calling, and I know it's around your dinner time, but we got to hold Bryn accountable. I just got home. I realized what happened, read the log. I want her to say she's sorry to you." She's like, "No, I understand, Nick. I get it." I said, "So I'm going to put her on the phone. The next verse you're going to hear is Bryn's." So I walk into the room and I have the phone. I give it to Bryn. I said, "Bryn, this is your teacher on the phone." And Bryn looks at me and she immediately starts to cry. And I said, "Go ahead." And she goes, "Miss Levesque." And Christine's on the phone. She's like, "Yes, Bryn, it's your teacher, Miss Levesque." And she goes, "I'm sorry." And she looks at me and I look back at Bryn and she goes, and I go, "Go ahead, Bryn." She goes, "I'm sorry for dropping the F-bomb." And I'm trying not to laugh, right? And the teacher is like, "Oh, that's okay, Bryn." She's doing really teachery things, nice things. And she's like, "We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day." Right. So I walk out of the room and my wife has taken over a little bit. And I walk out of the room and I said to Christine, "Thank you so much. And again, I apologize. I apologize for calling you." I said, "But we really got to hold Bryn to a high standard." And she's like, "No, I understand that." She goes, "Nick, before you go though, I got to say, we actually thought it was quite funny. I said, yeah, well, it's not really becoming of Bryn to swear, but I mean, when she does see something like that, I can understand why you would think it would be funny. And she goes, no, it wasn't so much that. It was more so the fact that she used it in perfect context. And I said, oh, she goes, yeah, she dropped her cucumber and went, oh, mother F. And here we are. So I guess there's that, right? So I walk into back into my room where Bryn is, and I'm looking at her and I said, I am so proud of you. And she starts to kind of look up and I said, you are a warrior. You are a warrior of good and you stepped up and I love you and I'm proud of you. And she's like, thank you, Daddy, right? And at the same time that I was having a conversation with my daughter, my wife left the room to put on this new black shirt that she picked up at the mall, and she wanted to bring it in to show us. So she's doing that, and I'm having a conversation with my little one, Bryn, and my son is on the bed and he's playing with this cream, but I don't really know what he's doing. He's just kind of playing with this cream. And as I'm talking to Bryn, my wife walks into the room, and just as she walks into the room, my son Wells, who was really young at the time, he was 2 or 3, kind of throws this cream and it hits my wife right in the shirt, right in the shoulder. And without missing a beat, Brooke says, oh, mother F. And I went, and Bryn went, and the whole story went for naught because I realized at that moment that our aspirations in life were not aligning with our application. And we need to do something to change that. Now, here's the thing. I get the story's primitive. It's that way by design. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want you to understand that it's great to have aspirations in life. Every single one of the speakers that you would have seen over the last 48 hours have wonderful aspirations, but they also have wonderful application. And the application is probably the most important part. And so with that in mind, what I want you to do is I want you to turn to your page where I have in the beautiful PDF that Kara put together. If you could put together, if you could turn to your page and you could see aspiration and application. And so what I wanted to do was, shortly after the story took place, what I decided to do is I really wanted to lean into making sure that my aspirations in life align with my everyday application. But I wanted to do it to make it meaningful for myself. And how I wanted to do that was I broke it down into 5 categories: efficiency or time, connection or relationships, impact, body, impact what I'm doing for the world, body, and expansion. And so on the one side, what I did was I filled out my aspiration. And on the other side, what I did was I filled out how I met that aspiration. So I want to walk you through it today. And that's what we're going to focus on over the next 13 minutes that I have. All right. So first one was I wanted to make sure that I was efficient with my time. So for time, my aspiration was be efficient with my time. Now, the application for that is meditate every day, prepare my meal, plan my week, follow my daily script. And so when I was putting this together, time, relationship, impact, body, expansion, I was looking at the holistic human, the holistic person, and try to touch upon every important aspect in my life. So your aspiration could be, I want to make it to online learning on time. So what's your application for that? Could be set my alarm 45 minutes before I have to log on to class. Or maybe it's go to bed earlier. You decide. So my aspiration for me was be efficient with my time. And I knew that if I did these things on the right under application, I was going to hit that. The next one here was connections, relationships. And so what I wanted to do for this one was I wanted to, my aspirations was connect with my friendships or build on my friendships, build connections with interesting people, and be there for my family. So my aspiration or my application for that daily was show appreciation with my friends by sending them messages. On a daily basis, I will pick one friend out of my friend group and I'll send them a message. Sometimes it's just a hey, sometimes it's a conversation, or sometimes I'll level it up and I'll call them. The funny thing is when you call a friend and you haven't seen them talk to a while and they answer the phone, I lead with, I love you. And every single time they respond with, you good, man? I said, I'm good now because I love you. Here's the thing. My fact is what I want to have is I want to make meaningful connections with my friendships. So my aspirations were that. My application was, these are the things that I needed to do. Also, I wanted to make sure that when I was making connections with my relationships, I wanted to make sure that when I was home, I was home. And I was making sure that I was not losing, my attention to be home with my family. After that was impact. So for impact, my aspirations for that was to design programs and businesses that have a positive impact on the world. As a social entrepreneur, it kind of comes naturally for me, and a lot of the speakers and all my speaker friends here that would presented before me and after me are in some capacity or very in a small and big way are leaving an impact. So their aspirations, your aspiration could be whatever you want it to be, but what's your impact? What's your aspiration for the world? Maybe it's applying some of the great stuff that you've heard already on how you can cultivate a great culture in your community. So for me, it was design programs and businesses that have a positive impact on the world. So how am I going to do that? My application is garner momentum with all my businesses by doing something daily. I also want to make sure that I teach the best of my ability. As Stu alluded to it off the top, I'm a professor as well. And I want to make sure that I bring it every single day. The next one was body. I read somewhere that when you're healthy, you have all kinds of goals. And when you're not feeling too well, you only have one. And so I decided that my aspirations was to get my health to an optimal level. And in order for me to do that, my application was sleep efficiently, drink water, move daily, eat plenty of greens, and plan weekly. I was talking behind the curtain before I came on here, the metaphorical one, if you will. I was saying to Kara, I was talking to her about, my time. Everything is scheduled. I make it so that my day, I'm living as intentionally as I possibly can by making sure that I'm scheduled. And so for me, that's one of the things that I need to do. I plan my week, I plan my day. That's living with intention in my capacity. The next one is a development or expansion. So what am I going to do? So grow personally and professionally is my aspiration. And so my application for that is read and listen to audiobooks every single day. The one thing that I do insatiably is I read all the time. I try to read a book a week. I don't always hit on that pace, but I try my best to read as much as I can always. I want to practice my gratitude disciplines. And I want to practice gratitude and I want to stay disciplined on my practices. Like I said before, I write my script every morning or every night the night before, and I follow it every morning. And those are the big things that I wanted to do for my life to make sure that I was my holistic self. So what I'm trying to offer you is an opportunity to take some time, whether it's now or take some time when this conference is over, but make sure that you align your aspirations with your application. And that's one of the big things that I think that we need to recognize is that we have these aspirations in life, and you are all goal-oriented and goal-driven people. I mean, the leaders that you have in your school, your teachers, administration, they all had goals. They all have goals. Well, all the leaders in your school, yourself, and student body and things like that, you all have goals. You all have aspirations. The key to success in any of those things is making sure that you are aligning your application on a daily basis with your aspiration. And that's the biggest insight I could get you in this program. As we wrap things up here, what I wanted to do, I want to share with you this story. Because one of the things that I realized in my life is this. The most successful people in the world spell love the exact same way that everybody on this call spells it. The most successful people in this world spell love like children, and they spell it. Let me take you back. About 3 years ago, or about 4 years ago now, I was traveling around the country. I was speaking at different places, and I was out in Saskatchewan at a conference. And I had to speak at this conference for a few days, and I had to fly back across the country to New Brunswick to speak at their conference. However, I didn't want to fly all the way across to New Brunswick. I wanted to get home because my daughter was just starting kindergarten, and I wanted her to feel my presence. Even though I probably wasn't going to see her when she was awake, I wanted to, kind of give her a hug and give her something that I picked up for her at the airport. So I flew from Saskatchewan into Toronto Pearson, and I drove to my hometown in Belleville, Ontario, and it was around 2:30 in the morning. It was around 2:30 in the morning when I got to my house and I walked up the stairs. And I walked up the stairs and I came across my daughter who was lying down sleeping. And I walked in and I gave her this little bear that I got in the Saskatchewan airport, the Regina airport. And it says, "Welcome to Saskatchewan." So I saw her sleeping there and I tucked the bear underneath her and I gave her a kiss and I turned around. And as I turned around, I hit the lampshade and I knocked it over, right? 2:30 in the morning, and I picked it up and I look, and my daughter looks like she's still asleep. So I continued to walk, and as I got to the end of the bed, I hear, "Dad!" And I turned around, and my daughter kind of sat up. And she's like, "You came back." And I said, "Yes, of course I came back." She goes, "Do you want to play?" I said, "Oh, honey, Daddy can't play. It's 2:30 in the morning, honey. But I bought you this cool little bear from Saskatchewan. It says, 'Welcome to Saskatchewan.'" She kind of looked at me, and she's like, "Oh, thank you, Daddy." So I gave her a kiss. I said, "Daddy's got to go away again on a trip. But I'll be back in a few days, and I promise we'll play." She's like, "Okay, Dad." So I give her a kiss, and I tuck her in, and I turn around, and I walk out. And as I walk to the door, I hear, "Dad!" And I turn around, and this time Bryn has stood up on bed. And she goes, "Do you want to play?" And at this point in my life, I was like, at this point in the moment, I was like, "Well, you have no concept of time, kid, so let's do this." So I walk over to her, and I put her on my hip, and I walk down the stairs. So I'm walking down the stairs with my daughter at 2:30 in the morning, and my wife, who's very pregnant with our young son, comes walking up the stairs, and she's like, "What are you two doing?" And without missing a beat, Bryn goes, "We're playing, Mummy." And of course, Brooke knows who she marries, so I said to her, "Yeah, Mummy, we're playing." And we walked down the stairs, and she wanted to read a book, her favorite one. Coincidentally, wasn't the one that I wrote for her, but I digress. So I pick out her favorite book, and I put Bryn on my knee, and I sit down. And I start to read the first page. And then when I get to the second one, I feel her head on my shoulder, and she's fast asleep. She's fast asleep. So I walk her up. I walk her up the stairs. I carry her up. I put her in the bed. I give her a kiss. And as I'm getting ready to drive to Ottawa to fly to New Brunswick for the conference, it dawned on me. The most successful people in this world spell love the exact same way you do. The most successful people in this world spell love the exact same way children do. And they spell it T-I-M-E. They spell it time.